For the first time since the Cardinals won their 11th World Championship, Albert Pujols returns to Busch Stadium. Cardinal fans are ready to welcome back El Hombre, one of their heroes and one of the greatest hitters in the history of Major League Baseball. For the first time in 8 years, Albert's back in the Gateway City. This is St. Louis Cardinals baseball, and it's a moment we've been waiting for since he left in 2011. The return of Albert Pujols to St. Louis. It's the Angels and Cardinals at Busch Stadium. And welcome to Cardinals baseball. Jim Hayes is with us. That's Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. In terms of the baseball, the Cardinals split with the Marlins and turned the page from last night. In a way, that takes a back seat to what we all, as baseball fans, have been waiting for a long time. Number 5 back in St. Louis.
We've been waiting for this, as you say, a long time. Not one of the great Cardinals, but one of the great players of all time is back in St. Louis. The 2001 National League Rookie of the Year, 3-time National League MVP. Albert could turn on a fastball like no other, 9-time All-Star. And Albert always, Dan, I mean always, brought energy to the ballpark, leadership, and a great style. Albert could play a defense, and he could run the bases. And again, the energy of Albert, outstanding.
And it seemed like he always delivered in the big moments. And another one here this weekend. Some of the all-time ranks in Cardinals history, and where number 5 sits in the history of this illustrious franchise. He's back. Huge crowd. What will the reception be like? It's going to be a lot of fun. Number 5 back in St. Louis.
Memorable players. From Dizzy to Willie. From Big Mac to Bob. There was the man, the wizard, and then the machine.
Go Albert.
For the first time since 2011, the greatest hitter of a generation returns to Busch Stadium.
The last time we saw Albert Pujols taking at bat at Busch Stadium, it was Game 7 of the 2011 World Series. Struck out in the 7th and capped off an unbelievable run. And now he is back in St. Louis. With Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Jim Hayes with us. Had a terrific visit with number 5 in the pregame show. And obviously an extra buzz here at the ballpark and the return of Albert Pujols. The Cardinals were introduced to take the field, and they all were just sprinting to their positions. And leading that charge, Albert's good buddy behind the plate, Yadier Molina.
Well, there's 162 games in a season. Not all of them are created equal. This is a special night. It's special for Albert, but also for Yadi. Albert called Yadi his little brother several times during the press conference before batting practice, actually, that was rained out today. And the fans here are just so on the edge of their seats waiting for number 5 to come to the plate.
It's not like a normal game in the middle of June. There is a buzz and anticipation that's been 8 years in the making since he left.
I find it interesting that the Cardinal players and I think the Angel players are very excited about this too. And really just Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina were teammates of Albert. So it's not as if Albert's playing against his former teammates, but what he is doing is playing in front of the fans that he is so affectionate about, and that came through again in his press conference.
Michael Wacha getting the start tonight. And his record is at 4-3, ERA of 6. He's been back and forth from the rotation, bullpen, now back to the rotation. Tommy La Stella, the former Cub, to lead it off. He's had a very good year. Trout, then Upton, Calhoun, Albert Pujols batting 5th. David Fletcher, Rengifo, Lucroy, and the pitcher Canning. And the first pitch is a strike, and we're underway. Listella is hitting .301 with 15 home runs, and he's driven in 41. And that's hit out of play.
I think Waka needs to get ahead, as he just did here with Listella, the former Cub. You know, Michael has had some good games and some not so good games. And the last time out, he struggled a bit, and just like to see the Waka of 2 games ago when he was pounding the strike zone, getting ahead, and commanding the bottom part of the zone.
That's fouled back. Pitch Arsenal presented by Hyundai.
He's got the good sinking fastball when it's down. Again, the changeup, that's his best pitch. The cutter and the curveball, which are used depending upon which pitch is better on that given day.
And that's taken outside. From 2014 through 18, Listella had a total of 10 home runs, and he is busted out for 15 now with the Angels in this season alone. Inside corner, and he struck him out. That's how we start this weekend Interleague Series.
He was going away with Listella, and then painted him on the inside corner. I mean, painted him right underneath the hands. Yachty does a nice job of framing it.
Very nice round of applause for Mike Trout. Round the horn presented by Dobbs, Ozuna, Bader, Martinez. Then Carpenter, DeYoung, Wong, and Goldschmidt, Yadier Molina. It's not often when a team comes to St. Louis and you never see him, and they've got the best player in the game, and we haven't even talked about him. It's Mike Trout.
Well, you know, the fans know who he is because they gave him a great round of applause as he stepped to the plate. They understand this guy is the game's best right now.
Good pitch, 0-2, and a bio on the center fielder, all-world player Mike Trout out of New Jersey. 2-time AL MVP, Rookie of the Year, already a 7-time All-Star, 6 Silver Sluggers. What a talent. He wears the protective gear, you may notice there, Ricky, on the left elbow and tricep area. Teams have been trying to get him up and in with a fastball, and he is among the league leaders in hit by pitch.
Well, he is a clear low ball hitter, and it doesn't matter whether it's a fastball or a breaking ball. He loves the pitch down in the zone, which is where Waka's changeup is, and they may try to get him up and in.
And the 2-2 is smoked out to center and kept in front somehow by Harrison Bader. If that gets by him, that's at least a triple. How did he keep that in front? A single for Mike Trout.
That's an interesting move by Bader. He was able to dive and keep his arm above him to make sure the ball didn't go back to the wall. And Trout, by the way, not a bad outfielder himself. That's another gift that he has. But here's Bader's acrobatic stop of that ball. You could tell that that ball might bounce over his head. Got a glove on it and held him to first.
There's Justin Upton dealing with turf toe, and that's why his season has been curtailed on the IL. Batting just .214, couple of home runs, and he has driven in 2. It's going through his mind right now. Albert Pujols emotional in the press conference around 3:30 here in St. Louis, local time. Asked about leaving, coming back, what hat he might wear in the Hall of Fame, regrets. All of it was on the table. And Albert continually talked about his teammates from his time here in St. Louis.
He was so gracious at that moment. He was 3 minutes late, and he apologized to everybody. I mean, we can wait 3 minutes. It's okay. We've been waiting for 8 years. We might as well wait 3 more minutes.
What made him so special beyond the numbers, the mental strength to be able to keep himself in the moment. And this is one of those times that is emotional. It means a lot for him, the city, the fan base, and he always seem to be able to rise to the occasion. We'll see if that happens this weekend.
I wouldn't put anything past him in terms of what he can do. I think back at the times where he would say in spring training, I'm here to make the team, and that was after winning a batting title. And he would say that year after year. He'd win an MVP, and he'd say, look, I'm here to make the team. And I believe that he believed that was the right thing to say, and that's how he felt. He just always felt like he wanted to earn it, and I think he's going to want to earn this moment here.
Well, barring a double play, John Hewlett, the PA announcer here at Busch Stadium, will announce Cole Calhoun, and he'll think it's the loudest ovation he ever got to go to the plate, because on deck, coming out of the dugout, will be Albert Pujols. Should be fun. The 2-2 pitch missed in. Trout is a threat to steal. He's got 8 stolen bases. He's been caught twice, and with 3 and 2. Let's see if Brad Ausmus, the manager of the Angels, longtime Major League catcher, former manager of the Tigers, wants to start the runner.
Looked like he was shaking his head no. Could that be the sign?
It's not, and that's tapped foul. 3 and 2 the count. I think you got to send him here, don't you? I'm aggressive, Ricky. Let's go.
Number 4 is pretty good behind the plate.
Pretty good, and so is the guy running at first.
Yes, he is.
It's a fun matchup within this game, and that's hit out to center. Bader spun around and won't get there, and gets away from him. Trout racing to third. Trout being waved in. Relay to the plate, not in time. He's diving in head first, and it's 1-0 Angels. RBI number 3 for Upton with that RBI double.
This ball is hit right on the money by Upton, and Bader gave it a shot and got close to the wall, and I think him getting close to the wall made it difficult for him to get the right hop to get it in quickly, and Trout showed another skill, running the bases, not just stealing bases, but scoring from first. He's a complete player.
Cole Calhoun batting .236. Pujols at the on-deck circle. And the breaking pitch taken inside, 2-0. Runner at second is Justin Upton. Ball game began with a strikeout of La Stella. Trout the single to center, and that's taken low, and it's 3-0. The introduction of Pujols has been 8 years in the making. We've all wondered what this moment might be like, and we're one pitch away from finding out.
I'm glad I'm here to find it out with you.
Yep, it's going to be fun. And that's hit sharply to Wong. Nice play. Runner to third, and here's Albert.
Batting fifth, number 5, first baseman, Albert Pujols.
Hernandez lifts a fly ball out to center, and the catch made by Bader. And if he didn't get in the box, it still would be going on right now.
What a great moment it was. The hug of Yadier Molina. Somehow I think he swung at the first pitch just so he could kind of move things along, but must be difficult to be Michael Wacha in that moment, to pitch to the guy that everybody's cheering for. But you know what? This is a unique situation here with Albert at the ballpark, and everybody feeling differently about this game.
Just shook hands with the first base umpire, the crew chief, Ted Barrett. You don't see that very often. 13th round pick, 1999. 401 players selected ahead of Albert Pujols. Griffin Canning is the pitcher for the Angels tonight. 1-0 Los Angeles. He's made 9 starts and a record of 2-3.
His ERA has ballooned a bit in June, but told he throws a lot of strikes, knows what he's doing, and has a good live fastball. You just saw it there at 95. Not a big guy, but the high ERA in June were just a couple of mistakes that he made, but he went 6 innings in each one of those starts.
Here's a 1-1 pitch and a swing and a miss by Carpenter, hitting .220. 10 homers, 26 runs batted in, and so 1-2 the count and the exaggerated shift. Do you think about, I brought this up with Brad Thompson, do you think about dropping down a bunt? The league average with 2 strikes is about 170. Cardinal lineup: Carpenter, DeYoung, Goldschmidt, then Ozuna, Martinez, Molina, Wong, Bader, and Wacha, presented by Buick.
Well, I think you do think about bunting depending upon the situation, and I think with Matt Carpenter, you may be facing a certain left-hander or needing a base runner. If you need a home run late, that may be different, but if they're going to give you the left side with 2 strikes and you can get the ball down, why not?
Be interesting to see the percentages of bunts as opposed to, you know, the average there, as opposed to what you might do swinging away with 2 strikes.
So if you could just bunt or even just chop the ball the other way, whatever.
Right.
I mean, there used to be a time where George Kissel used to call it a butcher boy, which I don't even know what that means, but that's what he'd call it, where you just almost like play pepper and just slap it over there. If you could hit better than 170 doing that, then take it.
Matt Carpenter was called up in the season of 2011, Albert's final year here in St. Louis, and at one point took over at first base for a while. Now it's Paul Goldschmidt.
Second baseman in the minor leagues, left fielder to make the Cardinals, third baseman for a bit, and then first baseman.
That's slapped foul and out of play. Griffin Canning is a 23-year-old from Mission Viejo, California. Played college baseball at UCLA, where he wore number 55. His nickname at UCLA was the Bulldog. Nickname because of number 55 of the Dodgers, and that of one of the great pitchers in Dodgers history, Oral Hershiser. And an alarm has gone off, and apparently it's a Pujols alert. I remember last year in Cincinnati with a no-hitter going on. This took place in the Great American Ballpark, and that was Austin Gomber. And now the fans begin to head to the exits, and that's what was announced. And now the umpires, you know, you're going to meet now with Brad Ausmus and one of St. Louis's finest, as we're all trying to figure out exactly what is happening.
And it did happen in Cincinnati. It was very disconcerting for everybody, but didn't seem to faze Austin Gomber, who had that game going that was just unbelievable. And Ted Barrett looks like he's going to get on a phone and make sure that this is not the real thing. Although for everybody here in the ballpark, you don't want to be wrong about it.
That's the understatement of the night. We're going to keep it right here and make sure we inform our fan base watching on television, wherever you may be, and what's happening. But many of the fans now getting out of their seats and walking to the concourse. And remember, in Cincinnati, Gomber went out to warm up. He was ready to go, then told to go in the dugout where he sat briefly, and then the umpiring crew said, nope, get back out there. And that's what we're waiting on here to find out exactly what is happening here at Busch Stadium. Again, Ted Barrett there on the left. He is your crew chief, and looks like they continue to play baseball here. And says, let's go.
And Ted Barrett clearly, with whoever he was talking to on the phone, representative of the Cardinals, was making sure that whatever the message was, there was a clear and 100% certainty that there was no danger imminent here, and it was, for whatever reason, you call it a false alarm, whatever it is. But I'm glad everybody was diligent about it, even the fans that left. I mean, that's understandable, to be sure. And they're going to start to come back to their seats.
Announcement was, sorry for the inconvenience. Let's play baseball. So here we go, 2-2 the count. I'm thankful that did not happen in the middle of the Albert Pujols ovation and at bat. So 2-2 the count. And if you're the home plate umpire and you've got Canning on the mound, rain delays, somebody injured, stoppage in play, there's not one in the old guidelines of the umpiring book that says, well, when the alarm goes off, you give them X amount of pitches.
Well, that happened with Austin Gomber, same situation.
That's right.
He actually came into the dugout and sat down, as you mentioned. And then the question is, you know, what do you do from there? And a bewilderment, I would say, and a little bewilderment here, but I would say also umpires doing their duty and finding out from somebody at the ballpark what was really going on.
10-pitch at bat results in a strikeout of Carpenter, and the batter is Paul DeJong.
You know, as the fans file back into the seats, Dan, I noticed before Albert came to the plate in the top of the first inning, I'm going to say it was about 80% full here at the ballpark. And by the time Albert got to the plate, everybody was in their seat. It's as if they just planned for that moment and waited for that time, got their dinner, whatever they did. But man, when Albert was at the plate, it was a big roar in unison here at the ballpark at a very, very special time.
Here's an 0-1 pitch upcoming to the Cardinals shortstop. 2 hits last night, now 300 in his career with St. Louis. And the 0-1 pitch pulled left side, taken there by Fletcher, and there's 2 away. Take a look at Rick Horton's Toyota key to the game.
Well, I think the key here tonight is to go ahead and celebrate. Albert's back. He had the great years of Albert, but you also compete. Albert said earlier today, he said, you know, I love being back here. I love the fans, and I love the people in the Cardinals uniform. But when the game starts, I'm playing to win, and they're going to play to win, and that's the way it should be. So I think to honor him, we can certainly enjoy the celebration, but still the bottom line here is for the Cardinals to pick up a victory.
Goldschmidt pops it up and out of play.
told the story in New York. Paul was telling me in the clubhouse that he idolized one of them, of the players that he was watching in Texas growing up. But he said Albert Pujols, and Tony La Russa, who is here tonight, was running the Arizona Diamondbacks at the time and set up what Paul thought would be just a quick cup of coffee with Albert Pujols. It then turned into a 3-hour-plus lunch, and all they did was talk hitting. He said, I had to go get my kids, or something was going on, but he said it was remarkable to talk to Albert and how kind he was in talking hitting at this level. Couple of strikeouts for Canning. The return of El Hombre. 1-0 Angels. Again tonight. More on that. Let's check in with Jim.
Yeah, Danny, you guys talked about it. Yachty and Albert Pujols are like brothers, and Albert's relocation to the West Coast hasn't affected that at all. Yachty obviously knew Albert's return would make for a special night, but he was hoping to stay as focused as he could on the game. Yachty told me it's going to be emotional, but you have to be a professional. I will try to keep that to myself. Yachty said, Albert taught me so much about baseball and life outside the lines. It won't be easy. Dan, emotional for Yachty, and I think a lot of people here in the stands.
And Jimmy, I want to follow up with you. You had the one-on-one interview. You were at the press conference with Albert Pujols. Anything stand out from either one of those visits?
Yeah, I know Ricky was talking about Albert wanting to focus on winning the game, and obviously that's the bottom line for everyone that's on the field tonight. But watching Albert walk through the halls as he walked into Busch Stadium for the first time and greeting a number of people, I saw him starting to tear up a little bit. He seemed emotional. I asked him about that in the interview, and he said, they say I'm a machine. I'm not a machine. I'm a human. So he's feeling it, Dan.
Absolutely. You could see the tears in his eyes during the press conference. And there's Tony La Russa, his longtime manager, in town tonight there on the left, and the former GM in St. Louis, now still with the Reds, and that's Walt Jocketty, and that's line to Colton Wong for the out off the bat of David Fletcher, third baseman of the Angels. Behind the scenes exclusive look at Albert Pujols arriving at Busch Stadium. Then the cameras would pick up, and greeted by a ton of media here in St. Louis, and as Ricky said, very gracious and talking with the local media, Angels media, national media, all here.
And in that room, you could tell it was a big press conference, because in that room were 3 Molinas, the Cardinal manager, Jim Edmonds. There's some big flies in that room, Danny.
Absolutely.
And Jose Molina is a coach with the Angels. Of course, Benji does the Spanish radio for the Cardinals, and of course Yachty, and they were just mesmerized by everything Albert had to say. They needed to be there, as did Mike Schill, and that is, I'm going to say, unprecedented.
I would agree.
Manager on the other team coming in to hear a player on the opponent.
Luis Rengifo, the switch hitting shortstop, and there's Polo Asensio on the Spanish broadcast there on the left, and Benji Molina on the right. Taken high, and it's 2-2. Andrelton Simmons, longtime Brave, great defender, is coming back, and he's on the IL. They thought he might be back tonight. He's not, and that pitch just a bit high. So it's Rengifo at short, and Jonathan Lucroy, longtime Brewer, is on deck, their catcher.
You said we went a long time without saying Mike Trout. We still haven't said Ohtani.
Pretty good weapon off their bench.
And it's the second inning.
Yeah.
And the DH really kills the Angels.
And a fly ball out to Harrison Bader. Makes the catch. Round number 2. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. By Chevrolet, the #1 selling brand in the St. Louis area. Find yours at your Mid-America Chevy dealer. and help create a world without cancer. Register now at pedalthecause.org. And a strike to Lucroy, batting .232, 7 homers. He's driven in 25. He's 6 for his last 42. You know, the Cardinals could have had Wainwright make this start tonight. And that would have been great theater to see Adam Wainwright pitching to Albert Pujols. Very close to happening. He did start last night. And right now the Cardinals trying to gain traction with their rotation, which at times you see it go through, and then a second time through the rotation. All right, things are going well, and then it just boom, something happens, and then maybe the bullpen springs a leak, or lately the offense not hitting, just has not come together after a very good, if not great, month of April and part of March, in which the Cardinals were 10 games above 500.
A lot of stops and starts when you talk about those facets of the game individually. Somehow Mike Schilt's team has won 7 of their last 11, and they're 3 games out in the Central.
And the 2-2 into center field, and a base hit. Jonathan Lucroy, and it brings in Griffin Canning. Cardinals baseball always live with MLB at bat. Follow the action with game tracking and video highlights, along with up to the moment stats, standings, breaking news, and more. Download MLB at bat today, and that's your #1 app for Cardinals baseball. Grounded to Wong, and we move to the home half of the second. Ozuna, Martinez, Molina coming up, and it's 1-0.
Too soon?
I think it might have been
For some.
especially year 1 and 2.
Yes.
But now it's 8 years since we've seen him on this field and playing Major League Baseball. And ironically enough, the man starting for the Cardinals tonight, Michael Wacha, compensatory hit for the loss of Pujols signing.
Number 5,
Stephen Piscotty as well.
Albert Pujols.
I've been saying I thought there would be 95% acceptance of Albert, and I think I was a little low.
Maybe so. It was loud. 1 minute, 15 seconds, I think we said. The ovation, and it would have been a lot longer if Albert did not get in the box. He swung at the first pitch and fly to center. Now Marcell Ozuna, who's hitting .252, 18 home runs. He's driven in 57, tops on the Cardinals in those categories, home runs and runs batted in. 1 ball and 1 strike on Ozuna. Mentioned the excitement, the anticipation, how the Cardinals took the field, and yet we haven't even talked about how the game ended last night in a ugly fashion for St. Louis. Jack Flaherty picked off at second base in the 11th, representing the tying run. Chopped towards short, 1 away. 4 up and 4 down for Canning.
Well, maybe the emotions of tonight's game will kind of get you past last night's that did not end well, no question about it, against the Marlins. And the Cardinals have a chance, of course, to turn things around against the Angels. But with Flaherty at second base, he was looking elsewhere. But Romo wasn't. And what a play, by the way, on the scoop and the tag. That was not an easy play. And Cardinals weren't sure whether or not to actually challenge that or not. But the call was right, and the game was over. And Matt Wieters, who was pinch hitting, never got to swing the bat. He was the final position player left for St. Louis.
Matt Wieters was announced as the pinch hitter, stepped in the box, Flaherty picked off, and let's go home. Cardinals in desperate need of some type of offense. Get something going, as the Marlins, their starters, the ERA in the 4 games was around 1. Jose with 3 hits last night. The Cardinals won 4 of 7 games despite being outscored in the season series against Miami. They averaged just over 3 runs a game. And last night, you're talking about the offense getting going, but they did have 16 hits. I mean, but it's not a lot of what Jeff Albert and Mike Schilt talk about, that punch, the knockout blow, if you will.
Damage.
And damage is the word that they always use. Here's a 1-2.
Tommy Edman had some damage, but not enough of it. And you think about the Marlins starters, most of the Marlins starters that we've seen in the series with them have been young and inexperienced. They haven't been all-stars, and yet they pitch like all-stars. That's where it has to turn, Dan. The offense needs to find what you're talking about. And I do think what you mentioned last inning, the rotation needs to get settled. It's good and then not, and then good and then not. But to get settled in where every time this guy pitches, you think you're going to win. And the next guy, and the next guy.
Be a loud ovation coming up for that guy. He's on deck. That's Yadier Molina. And the 3-2 pitch to Jose Martinez, pulled foul. The Cardinals as a team batting .224 in June, and yet they've gained ground in the Central, but only Baltimore in all of baseball with a lower team average this month. They're at .220, the Cardinals .224. Well, it's odd looking in that Angels dugout not seeing Mike Scioscia, longtime manager of the Anaheim then LA Angels. 3-2 pitch, fouled back. The first year since 1999. Mike Scioscia not the manager. And 3 straight years finishing under 500 his last 3. And each of the last 2 they finished 80 and 82, so he stepped away. And here's Brad Ausmus after some time in Detroit.
So they went from a jovial, fun-loving catcher to a serious, intellectual catcher as their manager. Both very good players. And Scioscia, former teammate of mine, I thought was very good in his role. Of course, he won a World Series. David Eckstein had something to do with that. He was there, as you mentioned, a very long time.
3-2 pitch, and Martinez lifts it in the air out to deep left, but not far enough. Edge of the track, and it's caught by Justin Upton for out number 2. And here's Molina. So 2 outs and nobody on, and Molina takes a ball low. 2 icons for the last really 2 decades of Cardinals baseball.
I want to see a bunt to first base.
Looks like Albert's trying not to smile.
Oh, he was smiling when he walked up to the box. Definitely. Albert's enjoying this, and I had 3 seconds with Albert earlier today, and that's all I told him. Just enjoy it. And this is something that he's earned, and the emotions are all over the place for him, I'm sure. But Albert in touch with the fact that this is a game that he's loved since he was a little kid. And by the way, he said when he came to St. Louis, he was a little kid, and he left here a man.
And that's lined to short. Renifo makes the play, and The Cardinals go in order. 6 up, 6 down for Canning. We're 5 spots away from that man. The sun actually peeking through the clouds just a bit. We had rain all day, all afternoon, and that's popped up. DeYoung wants it off the bat of Tommy LaStella in the first out here in the third.
Important second time through the lineup for Michael Wacha to just get settled into this game. He gave up the run in the first inning. That happened fast. A couple of lineouts in this game too. So he's been okay. But if he gets through this lineup a second time with success, and this is the hardest guy to get out in this lineup, Mike Trout, then I think he can get deep in this game and give the Cardinals their chance.
Here's Mike Trout, who singled and scored the only run in this game. The Kubota power stats and the highest OPS since July 1st. I mentioned during the telecast last night, Trout has been red hot. Goldschmidt also on that list. He was an excellent high school football player, could have played D1, but decided that baseball was the better route after suffering an ankle injury during his freshman year on the gridiron. So looks like he made the right decision. He taps that foul. I bet Mike Trout enjoyed the weather today. He's a fanatic of weather. He loves the Eagles. He loves baseball, the Eagles in the NFL. And he also studies, watches, loves weather, owns his own weather balloon, and has appeared actually on the Weather Channel. So he's an MVP. He hits rockets everywhere, and he'll tell you if it's going to rain.
Pretty good resume.
You got it.
Not a real chatty guy. He's not really like a big interview guy. He's not a self-promoter.
That one hurt.
Sure did.
And it's funny you say that because, and this is not good, you don't want to see the game's best player injured at any point, but you know, he's in such a large market, media market in LA, and we talk about all the time trying to market the game and show off the stars in Major League Baseball. This one's the biggest. It got him on his knee, not the foot or the ankle. Watch the back knee.
Ooh. Well, that's unusual. We'll have to wait and see if this limits him, not only in this game, but in this series. That's something that could certainly limit him defensively on the base paths. Players get these little bumps and bruises, and I say little, he just hit a rocket off his knee, but he's going to stay in the game, but doesn't mean he's at 100%.
So 3-2 here on Mike Trout. Delivered with a 2-strike base hit to center, first time up, and a ground ball running down that first base line. He could fly. Look at that. Back knee or not, gets down the line and now walking gingerly after that foul ball off the knee.
He limped after he got to the bag, but he was an all-out sprint there. What a hustling player he is. He puts his head down and runs. Now, I'm told for people that Mark Langston does radio for the Angels and has for many years, was a great player himself, a pitcher for several years and an all-star. And he said that what you love about Trout when you watch him every day is that he runs out every ball like Pete Rose. And if that's not marketable, I don't know what is. Don't talk about it. Just watch him play. Here's Mark on the right. Very good left-handed pitcher in his day. And he also said with Trout that it is a daily occurrence that he will have a moment with a kid in the stands. He is so connected to fans at the ballpark. Again, he just doesn't like to talk about it.
Speaking of that, I don't know if you saw the video on social media from Toronto the other night. Young fan, Down syndrome, and Albert got attention towards his direction of this young fan. And as Albert did many times here, he did the rest. And a lifetime memory as Upton hits it out to left center. That ball is down. And runners at the corners now with one out. And it brings in Cole Calhoun.
Here's the video you're talking about. There's the fan that had wanted to meet Albert desperately, and not only did he meet him, he gets the jersey and a signature. And talking about it making a young man's life more interesting and to give him a story. That's Albert.
So the base hit by Upton, he's 2 for 2. Here's Calhoun with Pujols on deck. It's one of my favorite moments ever connected with Albert Pujols early in his career. He used to do the buddy walk here at the ballpark to raise funds and awareness for Down syndrome, help out parents and kids, and he hit a 13th inning walk-off homer. It's off of Dan Masilli of Houston, and it happened on his buddy walk day. It was awesome. And that's inside.
You talked about him rising to the occasion. How about this one? His home runs got out in a hurry. And he knew what was going on at the ballpark. He obviously very invested in the Down syndrome community, as well as helping people out in the Dominican and his Pujols Family Foundation. Dan, as you know, I've emceed his banquet several times.
Goldschmidt will try to turn 2. They do. Walk at the bag, and they get the double play. Started by Goldschmidt. 3-6-1 on the double play. And now only 3 games below the 500 mark. T-Mobile connection to the game. May not be the home runs and the runs batted in and the moments between the white lines that make this return so special, but it is his connection to those in the Down syndrome community. And he started his foundation in 2005, and that was inspired by his daughter Isabella, who has Down syndrome. This is Colton Wong at the plate. And the foundation has expanded to the Dominican Republic for impoverished families. Down syndrome is a genetic disorder that afflicts 1 in every 700 babies born in the U.S. as Wong lines it to second. And that's according to the National Down Syndrome Association. So more than anything, he's a dad and helping out those that need it most in the Dominican. He has taken doctors, dentists, and those that want to help every off season down to the Dominican to help out those kids. Love it.
And when he's involved in all of those projects, all of those missions, he is, I mean, he is head first involved in it. He is knee deep involved in it. He is engaging with the folks that they're trying to serve. It's just not his name.
Bader showing bunt, and bunts it right back to Canning, and that's out number 2. And really? People may wonder or say, well, I'm not going to cheer for Pujols. He took the money, he went to LA, and he turned his back on the city. And that's why this return is so special for any athlete, but one that invests his name, his money, his family's time, his personal time into this community. And there's not many that have done as much as the guy that's wearing that Angels number 5 jersey. That's why this is so special tonight.
Yeah, still has a home here, still spends time in St. Louis, so he's a part of his heart has never left here. In my opinion, I think he still feels a connection here that's very important to him and always will be. And I think his charity work is part of that.
Bader now 1 for 10 when trying to bunt for a base hit this year. Here's Michael Wacha, 1 ball, 1 strike. Pujols, by the way, due up first for the Angels, coming up in their half of the 4th inning. And that's an 8-pitch inning. Albert coming up. His final year in St. Louis, and hit number 2,000 for Albert Pujols, and he did it against the Chicago Cubs, as the Cardinals, we later would find out, were just about set to take off and have that magical run. 2 days earlier, the Cardinals made a trade for Edwin Jackson. He actually started that night. Albert had 2 doubles and the second, hit number 2,000, and he's coming up for the second time tonight. Michael Wacha was the final out, so just finishing his warm-up tosses. And we'll also have a visit with Tony La Russa and Jim Hayes coming up, maybe even Walt Jocketty.
Albert Pujols.
First pitch swinging in his first at bat, fly to center. Another long ovation as Albert was motioning to Molina, get back behind the plate. 2-0.
The video we just showed of the Pujols scowl on his 2,000th career hit was in stark contrast to the smile that we just saw in that first pitch from Michael Wacha.
The crowd chanting Albert. 3-0. I wonder if he's got the green light. What do you think?
He's got whatever he wants.
You got it. And a walk. Some boos for Michael Wacha, and such a unique situation here tonight at the ballpark. And a Hall of Famer is with Jim Hayes.
Yeah, with Tony La Russa in a booth up here with Barry Weinberg, Walt Jocketty, and also Tony La Russa. Everyone was standing and cheering for Albert Pujols even before that at bat. How about the crowd chanting Albert here in St. Louis against the Cardinals?
No, I thought that was the second at bat was touch of class with him, very loudly all over the stadium. You know, Albert, Albert. And I know Wacha's a great competitor. He's just trying to make a pit. He didn't want to walk him.
Obviously, you're here because you understand the importance of this moment, Albert's return to St. Louis. Tell us the emotion for you watching this.
I think it's about our fans and our organization, and Albert's part of their history. If you watch his 11 years and what he did for us, you know, I sent a text through our maybe some from our foundation and said, you know, there are hundreds, millions of people would like to be here of what he's done for us in 11 years, but 45,000 in person.
You were able to identify something about Albert Pujols that year. What did you see?
Well, our whole staff said, I give Walt Jocketty a lot of credit. He had a great spring, and he said the only way that you can put him on the roster is if you play him, because otherwise he's got to go to AAA. So if you can guarantee him enough at bats, he definitely has earned a spot on the team. As it turned out, we had like a 2 or 3 week trial period, and after about a series or two, and he's hitting 1,000. I guess he belongs there.
I know he also with his field, and he is.
Well, I'm very careful because there are a lot of guys get involved, but Albert is the best I've ever seen. He and Didi and what they do with their foundation, the way he gets involved, and he does it during the season in St. Louis in the middle of the heat on an off day. He'd be out there working with the kids, does it all winter, and still does work here and in California.
Guys, it's great seeing all of you. Barry, Tony, thanks for the time. And Dan, just so you know, Tony made me stand in the back of the booth because he wanted to watch the game and for me not to bother him, just like old times.
Oh, absolutely. It's like watching Tony TV again, all over again.
Oh, nightly entertainment.
There's a strike to David Fletcher. He went 3-0 on Fletcher at 4 balls to Albert Pujols. So 7 straight balls to start the inning. There were 401 players picked ahead of Pujols. 15 Cardinals picked before him. And of the 15, 10 didn't even make it to the big leagues.
Albert told a story today about some of his teammates that were pushing for him to make the team, as Tony was talking about his little trial run in spring training. But McGuire was one of them. Jim Edmonds was one of them. He said great things about Jimmy. But then he said something I'd never heard before. Albert said, once I made the team, and I really didn't think that was a possibility, but everybody was pushing for me. Jose Oquendo pushing for him as well. And he said, I got on the bus, my first moment as a big leaguer, and Darryl Kyle walked up to me and said, okay, you're here. Now go out and be an all-star.
Right.
And he said, and I'd never heard him say that before.
Me neither.
And that was, to me, a great, and it was emotional when he said that about DK, obviously his teammate, but the fact that he gave him a vision that he could be a great player.
Carpenter flips to second for the out, so they get the lead man. Mention how all those players were instrumental in that first season for him. They had Big Mac, so Pujols played wherever he was needed in year one. Started 52 games at third, 38 in left, 33 in right, and 31 at first. You mentioned Larry Walker with situational hitting, Jim Edmonds positioning defensively, McGuire the mental side of the game. So that's his second at bat, and you got to think not everybody that's here tonight is going to be here tomorrow, and you know that Yachty, every single time he comes up, he's going to step out in front of the plate to make sure that Albert gets his due.
As he should.
That pitch taken low, and a little lack of command right now for Michael Wacha.
I think it's Yachty understanding the moment and the impact on the Cardinal fan base, and I thought Albert understood it too today when he was talking about Bob Gibson and Red Schoendienst and Lou Brock. He said, I learned to run the bases from Lou Brock, a Hall of Famer, taught me to run. He said, you don't have to be the fastest guy, you just have to make the best route and have the best instincts. And that obviously imprinted on Albert, and Albert was a good base runner, a daring one, but a good one. And I think Albert, again, not missing the moment about the fact that this is a celebration of Cardinal baseball here, and he's a big piece of it.
That pitch looked to be a strike, but called a ball. It's 3-1. Talk about some good players. How about that? Pujols and Trout together. That's some talent.
Who buys dinner when they go out?
They can go anywhere they want and afford it. Cardinals have turned 81 double plays this year, and that leads all of Major League Baseball. Angels have hit into 79, and that on the flip side also leads Major League Baseball. Calhoun grounded into a 3-6-1 double play. That ended the top of the third, and Walker would love to get that ground ball here. They start the runner on 3-2. Swing and a miss. What a gun! What a gun! Throw him out. And Fletcher had a good jump. And Yadi's got a little extra jump going tonight. You could see it when he took the field. He's fired up tonight. His buddies returned. And not much has changed since 2011.
Here, 11 years, the success that I have here, 9 playoff, 2 World Series, the best fans in baseball. I use the term that I came here as a little boy and I left as a really strong and big man, like growing man,
That was about 3:30, 3:45 here at Busch Stadium. Long press conference. The return of Albert Pujols, the 3 MVPs that he won here in St. Louis. The top of the lineup, and Carpenter won it in 05, 08, and again in 9, and was a runner-up 4 different times. Twice to Barry Bonds, once to Ryan Howard, and in 2010 to Joey Votto. Remember, he said, I don't want to be called the man. I don't like that. I don't like El Hombre. I'm Albert Pujols because that guy on the right there of your screen is the man. And when he got to L.A., he actually told the Angels to pull down some of the billboards that were situated around town, El Hombre and the man. He said, nope, get him down. He had great respect for the Hall of Famers and certainly Stan the Man.
It's a guy who gets it. And maybe a further mention, Dan, of our key to the game that we talked about earlier is to enjoy this moment with Albert here at the ballpark, but still compete. And boy, was Yadier Molina competing to end the last inning. And that's something I think Albert, as he said today, that's what you do. You play the game the right way, professionally, play hard, and that's our job. And I felt that Albert did that when he was a Cardinal. I think he's done it as an Angel with less maybe effectiveness because of injuries in some cases and just deteriorating skills, but he's still a tough out.
First base runner for St. Louis. It's a leadoff walk here in the bottom of the 4th for Matt Carpenter. That was only the 15th attempt of a stolen base with Yadier Molina this year behind the plate, and here we are playing in game number 75.
It seemed fitting, though, didn't it? A strike him out, throw him out with Albert in the house to watch it. Seemed like a little gift to Albert, didn't it?
We don't see as many pickoffs with Molina and whatever combination is at first base. Those two were always on the same page, it seemed like, in that regard. And there's a strike to Paul DeJong, who grounded out to third. It's not only the arm that you think about with Molina, but the accuracy. That was right on the bag, and a good jump too by Fletcher. That's a strike, 0-2.
And thinking maybe about Yadi having 2 of his brothers here in the ballpark, maybe want to show off for them a little bit too. Jose coaching with the Angels, and of course Benji here with the broadcast. And that could not have been any quicker. His release there was outstanding, and the throw right on the money.
Here's the 0-2 pitch, and DeJong pops it up. Pujols can't find it. He's in foul territory. Now he does, and makes the catch. Couldn't find it this time of night. Tough to pick up the baseball. Boy, that reminds me of a night rainy here in St. Louis. On deck circle, which is rubberized, and you don't see it anymore on the on deck circles. The rubberized circle that was there to lay the equipment or for a player to stand. And remember, Pujols slipped. Very similar type play here.
You know, there's some instinct with that because he was headed in the general direction, but he just couldn't see it. And so, but he kept working towards it, asking for help. was interesting to see the Cardinals in the front row behind him. It's almost as if they couldn't see it either. And they certainly weren't going to help it.
No, sir. There's Goldschmidt, and mentioned earlier how he and Albert got together to talk hitting, and he said he bases this stance right here off of Albert Pujols. Now the bat, the knob kind of starts going towards the sky, but then he said, I try to get in the hitting position of Albert Pujols. And as he talks about all the time, it's not how you start, but you got to load and then get the hands back and then go. Really interesting, that side by side. And Goldschmidt looks at a strike and finds himself in the hole.
How you start is really almost irrelevant. It's where do you get in the proper position, and hands in the right spot, balance with your lower half. And it was interesting to see those two side by side, that they get to that same spot even though they start differently.
Runner at first, and the 0-1. Goldschmidt 2 nights ago in the 11th, the walk-off homer. Still really trying to gain traction outside of games against Milwaukee. I mean, he just tore up Milwaukee pitching, and on the year, 14 home runs, 31 driven in, struck out swinging first time up as he chased a slider, took just 3 pitches to strike him out. And this right-hander, Canning, has struck out 3 and has not allowed a base hit.
Not only is he trying to get traction, the entire Cardinal offense is trying to get traction. Thought about this old saying today, just thinking about something Reggie Jackson once said about, and now he said it about himself. Goldschmidt would never say that, but he said, I'm the straw that stirs the drink. And it revolves around me being able to compete and play, and everybody kind of is going to get energized around me. I think Goldschmidt needs to become that straw for the Cardinals.
Well,
now, he won't talk about it that way, but that's why he's here, to be that guy.
Paying him a lot of money to be that guy too, and with that, the responsibility of being a premier elite player and hitter.
And he's got the resume to be that. Not as if you're hoping somebody can turn into that. You know, when you're a young player, you hope that a Harrison Bader will develop into a frontline player in the big leagues, and you hope that Paul DeYoung will be an all-star, and you hope that Jack Flaherty will be a 15-game winner, and you have some evidence to that, but Goldschmidt's already done it.
Tony La Russa said a few years ago, closest thing I've seen to Albert Pujols, Paul Goldschmidt, when he was in Arizona. And the 2-2 taken low. See if the Cardinals now want to start the runner. Matt Carpenter at first base. Cardinals lead the National League in stolen bases. They're in the top 3 of most running categories. First to third, extra base taken, those types of things. They've cleaned that up for the most part. And a lot of times when you're not performing offensively, you start runners. Get something going. And the 3-2 pitch. They start the runner, and it's yanked foul. And Goldschmidt just hit it out of the stadium. It's Mike Laga Part 2. I've never seen that here at Busch Stadium 3. Mike Laga did that at Busch Stadium 2. It completely went out of the park.
A similar kind of situation, except from a right-handed batter. Laga did it left-handed and got way out in front of a pitch and just yanked it out of the ballpark. Goldschmidt just did that. Wow.
Games, batting practice, I've never seen it. They started the runner on the previous pitch, and now Goldschmidt takes a walk, and there's 2 in the game issued by Canning, and both have come in this inning. That is unbelievable to hit it out of this ballpark. Hyatt Regency St. Louis at the Arch. Book it right now. 314-655-1234. HyattRegencyStLouis.com to book that trip.
I think that landed about where the statues are.
Yeah, about where the Stan the Man no. Well, you got
statues
I would say in
on
between.
Clark, Clark, yeah.
Stan the Man statue, and then you have the Hall of Fame collection there.
Right.
About halfway maybe between. I've never seen that. Have you here?
No. You want me to go out and look for the ball?
Hey.
I'll be back.
That would be a unique item, to say the least. Somebody's out there enjoying themselves, maybe meeting a friend, and they say, "Duck!"
Watch out.
So here's Marcell Ozuna with 1 out and 2 runners on. He's driven in 3 in just the last 12 games. Bit of a rut right now. And he could change that right here. And that's a ball. He was carrying this offense back in early June. Last 8 games, he's 5 for 31 and 9 strikeouts. Another guy that fits into the description of Paul Goldschmidt, what you're talking about, trying to pick up this offense. What's interesting, too, he's got 18 home runs, and better than half of them have come with runners on.
Right.
But yet he has left the most men on base in the game. Two balls, no strikes.
This could be a go pitch here for Ozuna. Pick out a small box. If he throws it in that box, hammer it.
And he taps it foul. And they just called a balk, and that'll be no pitch. It'll be 2 balls, no strikes, and a balk apparently has been called here on Canning by the home plate umpire, Lance Barksdale.
I did not see it. Did you?
Not sure.
Not live. Did he not stop?
That's what I think he called, that he didn't come to a complete stop.
And you just don't see that very often. You don't see it called.
First career balk. Wow. I'm not sure what he did wrong.
Me neither.
And it puts runners at second and third with 1 out. And the count on the board says 2-2, but I believe it is 2-0.
There's no argument from the Angels dugout, at least that I can tell.
As Ozuna hits it out of play in this big crowd here in St. Louis.
Wonder if he twitched with his back leg. Something. We'll take it.
It changes then what you might want to do if you're Ozuna, get that fly ball. Also, it helps you in terms of double plays on the ground. He's hit into the most for the Cardinals. And time called, so 2 balls, 1 strike.
Carpenter will be going on contact on a ball hit in the infield with everybody back. What you can't have is a strikeout.
The 2-1. Ozuna, a little flare out to shallow left center. This ball will drop and a run will score. Carpenter from third to the plate, and Goldschmidt, very good base running. He was right on the heels of Carpenter. He goes to third, and this game is tied 1-1.
Ozuna is the master of the velocity off the bat. The hard contact. Not this time, but
it's a base hit anyway. 94 on his fists, and he shows his strength at least to get that ball into the outfield. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I get John Kelly next to me now.
I'm so happy for John Kelly. I haven't seen him since the Stanley Cup.
That was.
He's still smiling, I bet.
Talked to him the other day, and yes, I can confirm he's still smiling. One out, runners at the corners. Here's Jose Martinez. We got a hometown hero in the house tonight. Pat Maroon is here, and apparently Jimmy's going to catch up with him, the Stanley Cup champ. There he is, Pat Maroon. It's hard to recognize him without the beard. Good to see that the Blues have recovered to get here to Busch Stadium. And there's a strike to Martinez. Fly to left on a 3-2 pitch. So in this inning, it's been 2 walks, a balk, and then a bloop. Usually you always say we need a bloop and a blast. I never hear you say 2 walks, a balk, and a bloop.
I'll say it next time.
Why not?
It works. First hit he's allowed. Tell you, at this point, the Cardinals are going to take any runs any way they can get it, but you still want the big knockout blow, the big fly, every once in a while.
Great jump, Ozuna. Martinez saw it, took it all the way. That could have been right down the middle, and to his credit, he took it because he saw the jump from Marcell Ozuna, and that's his 8th stolen base this year.
And that's how Ozuna does it. He just reads the pitcher who's not looking and not paying enough attention, and he hasn't really handled the defensive part of pitching very well this inning. The balk, allowing the stolen base.
Runners at second and third. 1 ball, 1 strike on Jose Martinez. You always wonder if a pitcher, and you know this better than most, if you get unnerved in those situations.
I was going to say, when you balk or make an error, you're not the same for a while, because you're beating yourself up on the inside. You're saying, okay, forget about it, move on. If a teammate makes an error, you say, okay, they're human, move on. But you don't want yourself to be human. And you just beat yourself up and you think, man, I got a guy in scoring position now because I balked. And maybe I didn't think I balked anyway. And so you're mad about that, and you just got to work that emotion through and get on to the next pitch, or you're in trouble.
So runners at second and third. Ozuna second on the team in stolen bases. He has 8. Colton Wong with 13 to lead the club. Outfield deep, and time called. And now a quick visit. And now also a quick word from Great Southern Bank.
Emptied your digital wallet? We understand. Great Southern Bank. We're fans too.
Jose Martinez, with runners in scoring position, is batting .351 this year.
Pitching coach is done with the conversation. That's Doug White, who was a Cardinal minor league coach for several years before getting the job here with the Angels. Been other places in between, but interesting how the Angels have used their pitching staff. They're thinking bullpen already. They think bullpen early, and even though only 57 pitches have been thrown by Canning, I think they're already thinking about what's next.
Isn't it interesting? In this day and age, analytics will tell you third time through a lineup, you know what? You get that starter out. Well, the Angels have been doing that. Here's a 2-1 pitch. A little bit low. 3-1. Molina on deck. And Martinez hits it out of play.
8 right-handers in the bullpen for the Angels, so there'll be no lefty-righty thing going on here in this series.
But had now 2 series in the last 2 weeks without a lefty.
Isn't that interesting?
Big pitch here, 3-2, tie ball game. Taken high, and the bases are loaded. 3 walks in the inning, and Molina coming up. Inning started with a walk by Carpenter. DeYoung popped out in foul territory to Pujols. Goldschmidt walked. Bloop single by Ozuna to bring in a run. Martinez, 3rd walk in the inning, and now they're all loaded up for Yadier Molina. Bard starts to throw in the pen for the Angels. They're all loaded up for Yadier Molina. Popped up and calling for it. Shortstop infield fly rule. And that's the 2nd out. Think about how a lefty could be big in this series when you've got Matt Carpenter, Colton Wong. Maybe you want to turn around Dexter Fowler to the right side.
Can that be true of any team you face?
Yeah.
Again, we've seen it twice. And I just don't know how you have 8 pitchers and not one of them be left-handed.
Yeah.
It's just odd. But if you're the manager, you're going to want to go with the best. And there's a lot of hard-throwing young pitchers in this game, too. They can get swings and misses on anybody, left or right.
So 2 outs, bases loaded. Colton Wong. And ball 1. Wong, his first time up. Popped out. Does have a couple of grand slams in his career. Fairly shallow Calhoun in right as opposed to what you see in left and center. Here's a 1-0. And Wong lifts a fly ball to Mike Trout in center. Cardinals had the bases loaded, 1 out. And Canning gets out of the jam. Redbirds, though, they tied up 1-1. And Brett, it seems like every fan in St. Louis has had the chance to touch the Stanley Cup, kiss it, and for some, drink out of it, like Pat Maroon. Pat Maroon in the house tonight. And he's standing by with our Jim Hayes. Jimmy.
Yeah, Stanley Cup champion Pat Maroon. You might not recognize him because he doesn't have the full beard at this point, but along with being a Stanley Cup champion, also a St. Louis native, Oakville proud, and a Cardinals fan. And you're here to see the return of Pujols. You know Albert.
Yeah, I know him. I got the chance to meet Albert in Anaheim. Signed a bat, gave us some gloves, took BP with him, and he's a really gentleman. He's a really down-to-earth kind of guy, and that standing ovation tonight was something special. I'll never forget. One of the coolest things I've ever seen, and it's a really special night. I couldn't miss it.
And it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, the parade the other day. The St. Louis Blues players didn't ride on top of pickup trucks or vehicles. They jumped down and mingled with the fans, high fives, signing autographs, letting everyone that wanted to touch the cup. Was that your way of saying you appreciate that support?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure the fans were involved in any way. And when the truck, turned the bend to go to Market Street, head up to make a right on Market, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get out and, appreciate the fans. They've been behind us, and they've been waiting 52 years for something special, and we brought a Stanley Cup, and we wanted to make sure they were a part of something special. Oh, shoot.
No, you're okay. You're okay. I would have saved you. As special as as special as winning the Stanley Cup was and the parade, the celebration was pretty remarkable as well. Seemed like that went on a little while.
Yeah, I'm trying to detox myself right now. It's been fun though. Celebrating with the fans, like you said, is the most important thing to us. and the parade was something I'll never forget for the rest of my life, my family, my son, fiance. So it was a really cool moment, but we've been partying a lot. It's time to relax, detox, take it all in, and really look around, look at some pictures, and really enjoy the moment. Really just what just happened in St. Louis.
You had that Game 7 double overtime goal. I asked you if you go back and look at the video or saw some of the pictures. You haven't seen any of it.
No, I haven't. You know, I saw the newspaper, but I didn't really see the blow-up picture. Saw the video. You know, there's videos flying around, but it's a picture that will be blown up, hung up in my house, and something I'll never forget. One of the biggest goals of my career, and one of the probably proudest moments of my career, and to do it in my hometown, especially in St. Louis, to advance our team to the conference finals was something cool.
You know, the fans of St. Louis have been waiting and waiting, and I talked to some of them. They still can't believe that the Blues are Stanley Cup champs. You did it. Has it sunk in yet? Are you comfortable with the fact that you are a Stanley Cup champion as a St. Louis product? You brought the cup home?
I mean, you can't really put into words. We're Stanley Cup champs. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about it, and we still talk about it. Everyone does. We'll text back and forth like, we're Stanley Cup champs. Can you guys still believe it? And we'll joke around that we're champs. So it's been fun.
I got to tell you, I think that the fans are very excited that you won it and appreciate that you appreciate them, Danny.
It's been amazing. What a run. Pat Maroon, thank you so much. Hey, and that interview was fairly clean, too. This day in Cardinals history, presented by the Lou Fuse Automotive Group. Back in his hometown, if you will, of Kansas City, put on a show 10 years ago today. Damage to the Royals. Cardinals won 12-5. Adam Wainwright, by the way, was on the mound that afternoon. He was 4 for 5, 2 home runs. That included a grand slam and drove in 6.
He put on a lot of shows over the years. And I would say more than any player that I can remember, when he was locked in, it didn't really matter what you threw him. He'd hit the ball hard somewhere. And great plate coverage. He had really a great understanding of the strike zone. Of course, he's still playing, but in his early years, he was no question the Mike Trout of his time. Best player of the game.
First hit April 2nd, 2000. That was off of Mike Hampton when Mike had signed that big deal with the Colorado Rockies, and Denny Nagel was there, remember? His third at bat of the game, and picked up his first hit as Bader hits one hard to short. All-time rankings for the machine, Albert Pujols, 645 home runs, 6th most, 21st in hits, 5th in runs batted in. Runs scored often gets overlooked in my mind with Pujols, who made it a point every year. He said to all of us, I want to get to the century mark with runs scored, and he did that a bunch.
Seems like there was just one year that he had 99 after having several of 100 today. I hope he didn't go home and feel like a failure that winter. But 100 RBIs, 100 runs scored. I mean, that's a sign of a big-time all-star player year after year. 9-time all-star with the Cardinals. And he earned it.
Well, you mentioned that he talked about Lou Brock earlier today, and Lou, as Albert said, as Waka couldn't hold up, told him you don't have to be the fastest runner to be a great base runner, but it's about how smart you are, and those smarts came through all the time. He would catch teams all the time to get that extra base. Little check swing into right. He may be thrown out, but Pujols is not at the bag. Waka not out of the box, and Albert Pujols never got back to the bag, and it's a check swing single for Michael Waka.
There may have been a play at first base had Albert recognized what Waka was doing, and Waka didn't know what he was doing because he didn't know where the ball was. Had no idea where the ball was at first, and so he's in the box for, well, too long. There's the check swing. Where is it going? And so shallow and right, but again, no one to throw to. It's funny, Michael looking for some love from his fellow starters.
Do you get it when you have a check swing single?
Well, maybe just a golf clap.
3 on the right side of the infield. Pujols playing behind Michael Wacha with 1 out. Carpenter up. Michael Wacha, the attention is on Pujols tonight, but here we are in the 5th inning and only 1 run allowed. Again, the compensatory pick for the loss of Albert, and he turned himself into the NLCS MVP against the Dodgers in 2013. Carpenter struck out swinging, 10-pitch at bat, and he also walked and scored.
Canning a little frustrated. He's not getting the top part of the zone, and there have been several pitches at the top part of the zone that have been called ball. And like a lot of young pitchers, he likes to work up, get some strikes up.
And Carpenter lines it to Trout. Reminder that baseball on Fox Sports Midwest brought to you by Ford, the official car and truck of the Cardinals, by Siteman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer. And coming to Steak and Shake. Get 4 meals, 4 items, $4. 444. Get more for 4 only at Steak and Shake. With Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Jim Hayes is with us. And here is Paul DeYoung, who's 0 for 2. Grounded to third and popped out in foul territory, caught by Pujols. And DeYoung hits it sharply to third. Fletcher a force play at second. Coming up, Trout, Upton, Calhoun, and then that man. The Angels 6th. Dakota Hudson will go tomorrow. Game 2 of this series. We'll have it for you. A day game here at Busch Stadium. Felix Pena will go for the Angels. We're on the air at 12:30 with the pregame show. Budweiser, what's on tap? Focusing so much on Albert Pujols. Scotty just had the highlight down in Texas. Makes you think of Game 3 of the World Series in Arlington of 2011. The Pujols game went 5 for 6, 3 homers, 6 runs batted in, scored 4. As he joined Babe Ruth and Reggie Jackson at the time as the only players to have 3 home runs in a World Series game. That was at the time, and I think the Panda did it then for San Francisco.
Several fans would give you different answers, Dan, to what their favorite moment with Albert Pujols was. Maybe it's the Brad Lidge home run, and I know where I was when that happened, the Lidge home run. I can tell you exactly where I was seated. Maybe it's the 3 home run game. Maybe it's something personal. Maybe it's meeting Albert. Maybe it's just being near him and maybe being at an event with him, or maybe seeing him somewhere around St. Louis and him being gracious to a young kid. Because Albert, despite the big moments, he likes to talk about the stuff off the field as much as on the field.
Carpenter makes the play. 1 pitch and 1 away. I was asked about that earlier today, and I hadn't really thought about it. And then I thought the one thing I'm really thinking about is Pujols and his foundation. And I have a jersey that he personalized to me, private message, but I helped launch the foundation for him, working on a show called Fox Sports Net Across America. And I gave Dee Dee a camera, and she took home video, and we took that home video. I said, I want to see what it's like from your eyes, you and Albert going through the Dominican and the people you're helping, the kids you're helping. And you would see the poverty in the town and the bumpiness of the ride, with people literally no shoes, no socks, no shirt, in their undergarments, many cases, because they had no money to buy clothes. And that feature that I did, I flew down to Miami to meet Albert. We did it, put together a beautiful piece, went everywhere across the country, and that was right when he was just starting to get going, you know, in terms of national attention for what he was doing here in St. Louis. We all knew what a great player he was, and that helped get it going. And that jersey signed to me, and I don't have much memorabilia, but that's one of them. It means a lot. And still to this day will come up to me and say, thanks for what you did.
That's great.
And that's the moment I think about when he hugged me and gave me that jersey.
And that's the personal moment. Of course,
Yep.
your gift to them and your involvement with them is part of that. But you know, Albert's a unique individual, and I always tell people about Albert. There may be a day where you walk by Albert, if you know him, you walk by him and he'll scowl and he won't even say hi to you. And the next day you'll walk by him in the same place, different day, and he'll give you the biggest hug that you've ever gotten in your life. And that, I think, that defines him. He has the focus, the toughness, almost the single-mindedness that he'll walk right by one of his friends, but he won't forget you for long.
Strikeout of Justin Upton, and it brings in Calhoun. Made me think of another story just now, Ricky. Before a game, I think it was Scott Rowland and Renteria were all-stars, and they signed a jersey for an auction. It's for my golf tournament. And I said, Albert, will you sign this? And I mean, he was not in a good mood. And believe me, he let me know he wasn't in a good mood. And after the game, I get a call from the clubhouse. One of the clubhouse attendants said, hey, Albert's looking for you. If you got a chance, come on down. And he came up to me and he hugged me again. I'm sorry. I just was having a bad morning. Give me the jersey. I'm happy to sign it. I know it's going to kids with special needs. And we started talking about Isabella. And my tourney helps kids with Down syndrome. And then we talked about a half hour after that, and it was delightful. That was Albert. I think we always have to remember, for all these guys that are on the biggest stage, they're human beings. No one is perfect. That includes number 5. And we're all allowed a bad day and a bad morning, a bad night.
Most players don't get to deal with what Albert gets to deal with on a daily basis, and we would have appreciation for the superstars that we were around, because we knew that the pressure was greater, the attention was greater, the demands were greater. I mean, every moment of your day, you wake up in the morning and you're Albert Pujols, and you go to the grocery store and you're Albert Pujols. You go out to dinner, you go to the movies, whatever it might be. I was at dinner at the same restaurant with him one time in Chesterfield, and I saw him, didn't bother him, didn't even go talk to him. And next thing I knew, my dinner was paid for. So he saw me and maybe appreciated the fact that I didn't kind of blow his cover there, just trying to have dinner with his family. And I'm sure that story can get told 10,000 times over.
You bet. And time is called. Walker has struck out 4 tonight. He's allowed 5 hits. The Cardinals have just 2. The Angels, by the way, the toughest team to strike out in Major League Baseball coming into play tonight. And a high pop-up. Ozuna makes the catch. Pujols left on deck. And from the Cardinals' perspective, nice to have Albert back, but let's get some offense. Tied his season high, 6 innings pitched, and his longest home outing this season. Here's Goldschmidt. Nice to have Chris Kerber, the radio voice of the St. Louis Blues, his wife Christy here. Longtime radio voice. A lot of ups, a lot of downs with the Blues for Chris, and it's, I'm sure, the highest of all highs to win that Stanley Cup and to have that call that'll live on forever. Does a great job. The 2-0 pitch to Goldschmidt. Taken high, 3-0. He struck out on 3 pitches back in the first and walked in the 4th. The Cardinals have 3 walks, all coming in that 4th inning. And the 3-0 pitch. Cardinals have 2 hits tonight. A bloop by Ozuna that brought in a run, and a check swing. Soft liner to right by Walker. And that's been it against Canning. Cardinals are seeing a ton of breaking balls this year. Among the highest percentage in all of baseball. And this slugger is seeing a bunch. Hits it off the end of the bat, and Canning off the mound to make the play. And the first man retired here in the bottom of the 6th. Quick word from BJC Children's Hospital.
Keeping kids in the game for 140 years. St. Louis Children's Hospital, guardians of childhood.
Here's Marcell Ozuna, had that bloop into shallow left and picked up an RBI. And Ozuna, the 21st of June, has 58 driven in. 58. Justin Anderson, all right-handers in the bullpen for the Angels, up and throwing. That's up and in to Marcell.
You got me thinking, Dan, which, you know, you do that a lot.
Yes, sir.
The concept of how many curveballs a team will see in a given night, that's growing in baseball, not just against the Cardinals, but in baseball in general. So
Ozuna with a drive, right center. Trout looks up, it is gone! Into right center. Ozuna showing off the power the other way in his 19th home run. And the Cardinals have their first lead. It's 2-1.
And somewhat on cue, it's a breaking ball, a hanging slider that he takes the other way. And there's the Ozuna power and impact.
That's a poke when you hit it opposite way in this ballpark into right center.
So the question I have,
yes, sir,
when you think about batting practice, how many sliders and curveballs does the average player see during batting practice?
That'd be none.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Now, I think the reality is a player during batting practice, our Nissan drive of the game is that home run by Ozuna, and rightfully so, to give the Cardinals the lead. The idea is to get the player's groove swing down, but you're seeing straight, and then you're hitting slider, curveball, changeup, slider, curveball, cutter. Maybe that's a thing teams ought to be thinking about.
It's become a breaking ball league.
It has.
And that's where it's really changed, because some fans might be saying, well, Ricky, it's always been in the game. You've always had breaking balls. They didn't do it before. But
not over 50% of
That's
pitches.
right. That's the difference.
I mean, there would have been 70% fastball years ago, and now it's about 45%.
3-2, 2 runners on, game on the line.
Slider.
Yep.
Curveball. So the guys that throw batting practice for the Cardinals may not want to hear me say that. The coaches included that. Okay, now
Tommy John.
Now I've got to throw 20 breaking balls to every batter. Can't do it.
Well, Canning is a very good example of what you're talking about. He has had 41 fastballs tonight. 49 have been off speed. Young man that made his debut April 30th against the Blue Jays. He was involved with 2 combined no-hitters at Double-A a season ago. Angels think they've got something in him. That's spoiled. He had over 300 strikeouts at UCLA, and that's a lot for a college pitcher. There's only 6 in the history of the Bruins program to have done that. Originally drafted by the Rockies, did not sign, and then picked up by the Angels. Martinez is fly to left and also walked. And the 2-2. Ground ball left side and a base hit past the diving shortstop. Rengifo. And the Cardinals have back-to-back hits here in the home half of the 6th. That may be it for Canning.
And another breaking ball. And that one didn't hang too badly, but Martinez looking for it and right on it.
Justin Anderson coming in. Angels have the fewest quality starts in baseball with just 13, and that continues tonight. Red and Consent is Cardinals with Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Jim Hayes with us. And Justin Anderson is our Chevy call to the pen. Comes in with 1 out, runner at first. 5 1/3 from Canning tonight. So again, as Ricky pointed out earlier, the Angels going to their bullpen, and they've got a ton of innings already under their belt collectively. Strike one on Molina, who is 0 for 2. He lined out to short, came up with the bases loaded, 1 out, and popped out to short back in the 4th.
And this is the point we were making earlier. The starters with less innings than the relievers. The high ERA, 5.48. Part of the reason, more wins coming out of the bullpen. That's hard to sustain over the course of an entire year unless you just remake your bullpen a couple of times.
Pulled foul off the bat of Molina.
Wear guys out. I mean, it's just sometimes you have to do it out of necessity. It may not be the plan. It may just be the reality. But when you've got a starter that can get that quality start you were talking about, it sets up the bullpen so much better. It's interesting. Tony La Russa at the ballpark today said during the baseball writers dinner in St. Louis this January, baseball has to make a course correction and go back to having starters go deeper into games. That's how you have a better staff. And it was interesting that Tony, the master of the double switch and the lefty-righty combos, was the one that said that.
Angels, by the way, the only team in Major League Baseball to have their relievers throw more innings than their starters. Very much an analytically based look at how they manage the game, prepare for games. And the 1-2 pitch now to Yadier Molina. I think Tony's right, and you hear it all the time. And I was talking to Danny Cox, longtime Cardinal, lives in the area, was here for a program, and he said, man, Dan, he said, you came out of Whitey's camp trained to go 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. But that's the mindset, and you just don't have that anymore. Good to see Danny here at the ballpark. One of our, and I say our, favorites. You love him too.
Oh, no doubt. Great teammate. Terrific competitor. And one of those guys, when it was his turn to pitch, you thought you'd win. And you knew he'd go deep. Unless he had a bad day. But he was going to be strong enough and capable enough to go deep.
Nice stop there by Jonathan Lucroy, and the count is now 2 balls and 2 strikes. You know, the Cardinals needed Walker to give them, speaking of innings, tonight. Back-to-back 11-inning games. Had to use a lot of your bullpen. And the 2-2. Molina serves it into right, and a forced play at second. The throw not in time. Martinez was really in a tough spot for a base runner with Cole Calhoun racing in, and he needed all 6'7" to get his feet to the bag.
Awkward slide too for Martinez into the bag, and here's the line drive the other way. That's a good pitch, well done by Yachty, and Cafecito has to think, uh-oh, do I need to go back? And that little hesitation resulted in a very close play at second base. Everybody's safe, but just hope Jose didn't jam anything sliding into that bag. Kind of a late slide. Wasn't sure whether to stand up or slide, and kind of did a little bit of both.
Well, even though Pujols isn't holding Molina on, they're still having a nice conversation. Right around the bag at first base. 2 runners on for Colton Wong. Came up with the bases loaded, 2 outs last time in the 4th. Fly to center and also popped out to second. Cardinals now with 5 hits. And strike 1 on Colton Wong. What do you think that conversation is like right now with Albert and Yachty?
I'm sure there's a lot of fun in it. A lot of joy in it. But they're not giving away state secrets, I can promise you that.
Right. Here's the 0-1 pitch to Wong, and now time called. Giovanni Gallegos is just starting to throw in the Cardinals' pen.
Albert told the story today about Darryl Kyle getting him his rookie season, and started to ask him and quiz him about kind of what he liked and how he thought about it, what his approach was. And about halfway through it, Albert said, hey, wait a minute. You're not going to get me that way. In case one of us gets traded, you're trying to figure out how to get me out. I'm not telling you. You watch for yourself.
0-1 fouled back. Well, Mike Schilt getting Gallegos up just in case you get to Walker's spot where you've been looking for those big hits and damage and offense. You got to think that's the direction he may go. And if you don't get to Walker's spot, does Michael go back out there? He's right around 100 pitches. It's a 95. So something to think about. Here's the 0-2 pitch to Colton Wong. Set up outside, had to reach over the plate, and Wong's got a life still.
Well, Lucroy's been upset about a few calls, and that one's clearly a strike, and again, not the intended target. And because Lucroy had to kind of reach over and grab it, maybe look like a ball, but boy, that's a big miss there.
Here's the 1-2 pitch. Anderson to Wong. Taken low, and it evens it up at 2-2. And a 2-2 pitch with 2 runners on here in the bottom of the 6th. Fouled back again. For those of you that just joined us, a little bit over a minute, the standing ovation in the first at bat for Albert Pujols. Another standing ovation in the 4th when he walked. The only walk that the Cardinal starter has issued, and he's due up first in the 7th, and in that first at bat he swung at the first pitch, fly to center. The 2-2 now to Colton Wong. Well, he got a gift with that non-strike call, which would have been strike 3, and he's worked the count to full 3-2.
So from 0-3 to 3-2.
0-3, huh?
0-3.
Gotcha. Well, you're tough.
Well,
but you're also told the truth.
You take it.
Right.
I'm not arguing with it.
3-2 pitch. And Wong fouls it back again. Pretty good battle here. Wong is, and we pointed this out in the Miami series, especially when he's facing left-handed pitching, but he's going to left field a lot more this year.
No doubt. And teams continue to play him to pull. Now, the Angels don't have 3 players on the right side of the infield. And for teams that do that, I think they're overcorrecting. And I think Wong's going to keep beating them on the left side of the infield if they overplay him too much. I mean, a shift makes sense in a lot of situations, but when you overdo it, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
3-2 pitch. Wong lines it. Tried to go the other way, and the catch is made. And there's 2 away.
And that's a perfect example. If the shortstop would have been behind second base or to the right side of second base, that's a base hit and a run. But a less dramatic shift, so when Colton goes the other way, unfortunately, there's a shortstop who knows what he's doing on the other end of it. By the way, I've liked watching him play.
Pretty smooth.
He's got a cannon.
Yep. Marcelo Zuna, the home run to right center with 1 out. Solo shot here in the bottom of the 6th to give the Cardinals a 2-1 lead. Now Harrison Bader 0 for 2. Tommy Edman, Mr. Home Run, is at the on deck circle. Cardinals have talked about situational hitting, and in particular with runners in scoring position. And Bader right now hitting just 133 in that spot.
He was on such a high in New York, playing in front of his hometown, and had some big hits, big at bats, and just really has struggled since then.
Here's the 1-0. Bader went 3 for 4, you may recall, in that first game.
In the first game, right.
In New York. Edman, who's on deck, homered last night to tie it up 5-5 off of Tehran Guerrero in the 8th inning. Well, when Albert Pujols had his first home run in 2001, Tommy Edman was 5 years old. So Albert's been around for a while. To further your point about Bader, Ricky, he's 1 for 24 since that first game in New York. Family, friends, the excitement, first time he'd ever played in New York. Thought it was interesting too. Mike Schilt, we had the game the other night where he came up, bases loaded, nobody out. The run scores from third, game over. And facing Romo, struck out, and it wasn't pretty. 3 pitches, the slider, missed him by a bunch. And Mike Schilt, next day in the starting lineup, trying to keep his confidence up, keep him going.
He's done that with several players.
Yeah. A little bit low, 3-1. It's the fine line, isn't it, for a manager?
Well, you've got to make the tough decisions. You don't want to kick somebody when they're down, and you don't want to lose them, but you also don't want to put them in situations where they're failing. So it's a really tough way to handle that, of instilling confidence, but maybe being careful about where you are in the order, or double switching with somebody, or maybe starting every other day a particular player who's struggling. Cardinals took a chance sending Michael Walker to the bullpen.
Does he recover from that? And he has. And now the bases are loaded. A walk to Bader. 4th walk the Cardinals have received. And this will be the 3rd at bat with the bases loaded. And last night, Tommy Edman came through against Tehran Guerrero, which tied the game up at 5.
Guerrero's throwing 175,000 miles an hour, and he threw him a slider with 2 strikes, an off-speed pitch, and a great moment.
Nobody up and throwing in the Angels bullpen. The bases are loaded, so that'll be it for Michael Wacha, as Edman will pinch hit for Wacha here.
There's your quality start. Talked early about Wacha's second time through the lineup. If he established himself, this could be a good night for him and could give his team a chance to win. But he needed to be careful in that second time through the lineup. Started out a little shaky, gave up a couple of hits, but that double play that he got off of Calhoun in the 3rd inning just seemed to get him going in the right direction. A little control issue in the 4th, but finished very strong, retiring the last 8.
Mentioned there's no lefties in the pen, and the Cardinals, with right-handed pitching to face, have 3 lefties coming off their bench. 3 switch hitters. And that is a strike to Tommy Edman. They've also added Jairo Munoz. He's back. And Rangel Ravelo picked up his first major league hit this past week. Is in Memphis. After the home run, back-to-back singles, soft liner, then a walk. And the 0-1 pitch. Edman in the hole, nothing in 2. Line on Wacha was 6 innings, 1 run on 5 hits, struck out 4 and walked 1. Here's the 0-2 pitch to Tommy Edman. Give Wacha more credit tonight in the fact that the emotions were so high in this ballpark for those of us around here. I mean, you just feel it. And in that first inning, Trout had singled, Upton hits one off the wall for a double. Calhoun had grounded out, and then he had Pujols, and obviously Michael's pitched in big games, but this was different. The emotions of St. Louis tonight.
It's good to have a veteran pitcher, and Wacha's in that category now. He's been around long enough to be a guy that can handle and understand the moment here, that it's Albert, and not to take it personally. I'm sure there are times it felt like he was pitching away.
Edman on a hop to second. Hit it sharply, but the Cardinals strand. The bases loaded. A little further your point, Michael Wacha, when Pujols walked, was booed. No boos there. Ozuna with a home run. Birds on top. Pujols, some of the moments. His return to St. Louis. The embrace between 2 of the best players in franchise history and 2 of the best friends. Pujols, Molina. It was 1 minute 15 seconds with that ovation. First pitch, a strike to Pujols by Giovanni Gallegos in relief of Michael Wacha as we start play here in the top of the 7th.
So the question is, if Pujols hits a home run, do the fans cheer?
Yes. I've thought about that, and I do think that that would happen. And then the further that point, would he get a curtain call and would he take it?
Oh, wow. That's 3 different questions, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the answer is yes. Yes. Maybe.
Maybe. Out of respect to the other team, he may not do that, and it would not be a slight to the fans.
That would be his quandary.
2-1 the count on Albert Pujols' first game back in St. Louis since 2011.
I feel like we almost had a chance to find out who that last swing. Fans have been waiting a long time to take this picture.
The 2-2 up and in. I honestly felt he would never leave. I never thought I'd see that type of picture. Molina with Albert at the plate. And he taps one slowly towards third. And safe at first. And I'm not sure the first base umpire wanted to call him out. And that is Ted Barrett. It looked like he was ready to ring him up and say you're out. And the Cardinals certainly will take a look as if they want to challenge. They do not. And Pujols has a base hit in his return to St. Louis. It's not your home run, but an infield hit. Clearly beat it out.
So if that's any indication there, joy over an infield hit, I would say the home run would have been what we thought.
Yep. So here is Fletcher now. Second time that Pujols has been on base. That infield hit to go along with a walk. Chevy called to the pen. Giovanni Gallegos pitched last night and being used more and more in these types of situations late in games and tight ball games.
Swing and miss slider, 48 strikeouts. Opponent's batting average low. More and more high leverage moments like this, and he's earned them. I mean, that's the deal. You know, a relief pitcher or a player will say, well, I need to know, for me to perform well, I need to know my role. And my answer would be, you earn your role. And Cardinals didn't say, hey, you're our 7th inning guy, but he's earned that. And I'm not saying every 7th inning, but you're not afraid to use him late in the game, in a close game, because he's been so good.
And the fly ball lifted to shallow right field. Martinez with the catch. Kia give it everything. Nice strikeouts per 9 in the Cardinals relief corps. A lot of strikeout guys out there. And Gallegos often overlooked the strikeouts that he's piling up. Now, here's something to think about. Left-handed batter at the plate, runner at first. How many times did we see Yadier Molina sneak a throw to first base? Pick off your buddy. Wouldn't that be something?
I'd love it.
Didn't do it very often with a right-handed batter, but a lefty, different story.
You think Albert has any dreams of what would it be like to have a stolen base against Yachty?
Absolutely.
Bragging rights. You know, I just, Dan, I felt this earlier and wanted to say this for young athletes watching, or even people here at the ballpark. You don't have to dislike your opponent to compete against them. That's a very poor misunderstanding about what competition is all about. I mean, you can love your opponent and still compete hard against them. And I think we're seeing some of that here.
The mutual respect.
Yeah, and I think part of that, part of that affection for your opponent in the personal way is like, look, we're buddies, and I want your best, and you're going to want mine. And we're not going to compromise on that. And we don't have to dislike each other. There's no feelings of animosity. There's just feelings of competition. And I don't think, again, competition's a bad word.
And a base hit to left. Pujols stopping at second base. By the way, that was Albert's first infield hit this year. Rengifo, the single to left, and now with 2 on, the batter will be Jonathan Lucroy, and they may pinch run for Pujols here. Looks like they're going to do that. And that's Wilfredo Tovar. Listen to this ovation. Take it in. Andrew Miller coming on. Counter with Andrew Miller. Our Chevy call to the Ben. And Wilfredo Tovar pinch running for Pujols. He's at second base and represents the tying run. Ohtani, the second fastest Angels rookie to reach 20 home runs in 2018. Joined Babe Ruth as the only pair of players in the big leagues. 10 pitching appearances and 20 home runs in a season.
It's a big time matchup right here, and a key matchup in this game. 1-run game. Ohtani not pitching in 2019. He will next year, but he's still an impact player with the bat.
He grew up idolizing Hideki Matsui and Yu Darvish, those that have come from Japan. Incredible talents. And there it is, what he did a year ago in 10 starts, 4-2, and very good at the plate. This is the fun part of interleague. Trout, Pujols, Ohtani. Heard so much about him. He wore number 11 when he played in Japan, which was previously worn by Yu Darvish. So idolizing both great hitter in Matsui, power hitter with the Yankees, and Darvish, outstanding pitcher. Tying run, Tovar at second base. Rengifo at first base, and there it is, 1-2. 10 of the last 12 appearances have been scoreless for Miller, and last night he gave up the 2-run homer. The Cardinals eventually lost by 1 in extra innings. And the 1-2. He struck him out. Late break. Ohtani was bailing. And a big strikeout for Miller.
A lot of movement for Ohtani with his feet. He did give up on that pitch. Off balance and well placed. It was a strike. Ohtani can't believe it, but nice job by Miller.
Dustin Garneau will be the pinch hitter. So left, right now on the bench. They have a 5-man bench. Ohtani has been used here. Tovar is pinch running. And announced is Dustin Garneau. Garneau. Ohtani will stay in the game, potentially take over at first base for Pujols. And now Garneau.
Cardinals trying to strand some angel runners, and the Cardinals stranding runners of their own are the reason it's just a 2-1 game right now. The missed opportunities that the Cardinals had in the 4th and the 6th inning, stranding the bases loaded each time. That's why we're 2-1 in the 7th. Couldn't get that big hit. Cardinals in the last 33 innings have only put up 2 crooked numbers.
Right.
And it would have been nice either in the 4th or the 6th to do so.
Here's the 0-1. And now it's 0-2.
Think about how little margin for error that gives you if you're Andrew Miller.
There is no margin for error, right?
There isn't. That's right.
Looks better. There's a little bit later break on his slider, I would think, tonight than what we saw last night. It was kind of sharping last night.
Right.
See if he can't get him. 0-2 with 2 runners on. And he struck him out. Back-to-back strikeouts for Andrew Miller. And that's baseball. Last night gave up a 2-run homer. Comes in a dicey situation 24 hours later. Back-to-back Ks. Honda home run inning. Cardinals hit a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Missouri. Listella will shift from second base to first base. The shortstop moving to second base. Tovar is at short. Garneau is the new catcher. Brad Ausmus chance to manage in a National League style game, and he's making the most of it.
We used to think Mike Scioscia did that in interleague play. He would run the bases, had good defensive teams, and do some hitting and running, and he enjoyed the kind of National League style.
And his teams played that way, as you talked about. They would bunt too a little bit to go along with that running.
So this pitcher, Luke Bard, attended Charlotte Christian High School, and I need to ask Mike Schilt, but I believe that's where he coached.
There's a story between these two. Bard was struggling and trying to figure it out, lost command, lost control, and one of the guys that he would call and talk to, that man there on the left. Carpenter down the right field line and yanked foul.
Not quite the Goldschmidt distance from earlier when he left the ballpark. So we've had a ball leave the park today. We've had the Albert moments. We've had a leave the stadium announcement that was bogus.
The siren, yeah.
The siren went off. We just need a fun walk-off, and we've had a great day.
And Carpenter lines it foul.
But a walk-off would mean that the Angels have to tie it, so I'm not for that. But it would just seem fitting. As Tony La Russa, who's at the ballpark, would say, it's a good day if we don't hit in the bottom of the ninth.
You got it. But Ricky, don't ask me how I'm doing.
That's right. And you know, I do it every day just without thinking about it. I mean, when you see somebody, what do you do?
How you doing?
How you doing? Don't ask me that. I'll let you know when the game's over how I'm doing.
Tonight,
so Tony.
The crowd, 48,423. 48,423. The 8th sellout in this 2019 season, and the second largest crowd for a non-playoff game. Did not go. And a walk. So let's get you caught up with these changes and the Angels defense as we go around the horn. So leadoff walk for Matt Carpenter, his second walk tonight. And the batter will be Paul DeJong. Cardinals have received 5 walks in this ball game. 3 by Canning, 1 by Anderson, and now this one from Bard. Here's the 1-0 pitch to Paul DeJong. And Carpenter to second base. So a little test there with Garneau just into the ballgame. Tough play here for Garneau, and DeJong was there at the plate and tried to avoid him. Scored a wild pitch.
And that's just reading it and quickly taking off. You can't hesitate. You just got to go.
So runner at second base, 2-0 the count. And a strike, and now let's see if DeJong can add to this Cardinal lead. 2-1. And the 3-1. And that's outside. So Bard is coming to the ball game, and that's back-to-back walks. You know, Mike Schilt sent Bard a handwritten letter back in 2000. Trying to encourage him. And Mike will send letters to former players, colleagues, coaches. He does it all the time.
And he actually coached at a different high school years ago, and it was 04, West Charlotte High School. It was 04 when he became a Cardinal coach. So he's been in the organization a long time, long time. And obviously the 50th Cardinal manager.
He worked his way up to this position. But in Charlotte, he runs an organization that helps young people that are dealing with all kinds of issues. Not necessarily at-risk people, but people are just kind of dealing with issues.
Runners go again. Double steal. Well, the Cardinals trying to take advantage of maybe a little wildness. Garneau into the game. And why not?
Pressure, pressure, pressure.
So for Carpenter, 6 stolen bases this year. DeYoung, his 6th. Good jumps, too. And the infield brought in by the Angels. Here's a 1-1 pitch to Paul Goldschmidt.
Baseball for life.
That's it.
Is the name of his organization. And started it with a friend of his. And heard Mike talk about that. Mike Schilt a couple days ago. He's very passionate about that. About helping out young people.
Infield in. 1-2 the count. And the next to Goldschmidt. 2-2. And the 2-2 pitch. Bar to Goldschmidt. Got him. Angels, by the way, had not allowed more than 1 stolen base in a game since all the way back on May 17th. StatCast AI powered by AWS.
Well, that's half the Cardinals' offense in terms of production on that one swing. And maybe on another swing, he can make it not exactly a half and maybe dance again for us.
You never know.
A little merengue, maybe. What do you think?
You're dancing in your seat right now.
You know, it's so odd. You and I did the exact same thing when he hit that home run up here. It just people didn't see it. Same little dance.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Almost put me on the broadcaster IL. Pulled a side muscle or something there.
You know, there's a lot of people on that.
Yes, there are. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Ozuna into center, base hit. Carpenter will score, and the ball is misplayed for a bit by Trout. DeYoung does not score. It's 3-1. Pop Warner right at the time when Trout was about to get it and field it cleanly had held up DeYoung. 3-hit night for Marcell.
Well, it was the right decision at the moment that turned out to be not the wrong one, but the one that he would like to change because he does hold him up right at the last minute. And there's Trout fielding it. And who'd have thought Mike Trout would bobble a baseball? Carpenter can score easily. But once you throw on the brakes right now, too late. Too late for him to get started again.
So runners at the corners. Last 3 swings by Ozuna have been hits. Base hit into left. Off the bat of Jose Martinez. DeYoung will score, and it's 4-1 tonight in favor of the Redbirds.
Martinez got a hanger, and the Cardinals get a crooked number. I never really heard the phrase crooked number until I got into baseball. What are you talking about, a crooked number? Oh, I get it. The 0's not really crooked and a 1's straight, so all the other ones have some twists and turns to them.
Crooked number.
Crooked number.
And it brings in Yadier Molina. And again, the chance of Yadi this Friday night here at Busch Stadium.
So what if you scored 10 runs in an inning? Would that be a crooked number?
Just called a lot. And Molina on the first pitch hits it out of play. Yadi lined out to short. Then in the 4th came up with the bases loaded and 1 out. Popped out to short and singled to right. 1 for 3 on the night.
It's interesting that the special part of this night that belonged to Albert is somehow also transferred in the Cardinal fans' minds to Yadier Molina.
Totally agree.
I think that's just a natural connection that people have made here.
Well,
I'd also say this, when Albert was introduced, for those that missed it early in the game, even before the game, got a huge ovation. And then when they announced the lineups and Molina's name was announced, for a split second, as loud as the ovation for Albert Pujols. The night it may belong to Albert, the city belongs to Yachty and this fan base. And I truly believe that.
And the hug was part of that after the ovation. That may be my favorite moment. You just don't see opponents hug very much. On the field, on the court. Not during play, you don't. Maybe after a game. But not right in the middle of it.
And the 0-2, Molina hits a high fly ball. Out to left, backing up Upton to make the catch. Runners tagging up. Ozuna from second to third. I'll say it again because it's overlooked, and guys that hustle will run the bases well, deserve credit. Yeah, Marcel dropped the ball last night. It's an error. But this year, he has been a different player on the bases.
He's been leading the way, I think, in the taking the extra base smartly, not running into outs. We saw a lot of that last year. I mean, aggressiveness. In fact, the minor league coaches spent some time last year, and they were originally talking about being aggressive as a base, amongst themselves, and then they started teaching their players. When we say be aggressive, we want you to know we don't want you to run into outs. That's not what we mean by it. Mark DeJohn was teaching that to young players. I think it's kind of caught on.
Wong, a ground ball, base hit in the right. A 2-out. RBI single by Colton Wong. Just got through the right side of the infield, and it's a 5-1 St. Louis lead. 3 hits in the inning, a couple of walks, and a little cushion.
So Ozuna going to second to third makes the trip home a little easier. He may have scored from second anyway, but we'll never know. They've been playing Colton shallow in right field. Might not have been a slam dunk.
Runners at first and second for Harrison Bader, the 8th man to come to the plate. Nobody throwing in the Angels bullpen, so this is all barred here in the bottom of the 7th. Bader 0 for 2 with a walk. Dexter Fowler has moved to the on-deck circle. And a strike.
Coming into this game, Dan, a stat we've not talked about is the Angels in interleague play, 6-2.
Yes.
But this is the first year, might be the first year in 15 years that the National League ends up with a better interleague record than the American League. At least now they're better.
And Bader lifts a high fly ball out to Mike Trout under it and makes the catch. The Cardinals tack on 3 here in the bottom of the 7th. Game 1 in the return of Albert. All right, guys, thank you. Andrew Miller came in a tight spot. It's changed now. It's 5-1. But when Miller came into the ball game, 1 out, 2 on, and at that point it was a 2-1 St. Louis lead. And he got Ohtani to strike out, and then Garneau struck out. Into the threat. Top of the lineup, and La Stella. You know, when Pujols was taken out of the game, it was Tovar who came in for him. By the way, Wilfredo Tovar was in the Cardinals minor league system at one point, but he didn't look real happy to come out of the game. It looked like he wanted to continue to play, and there's a ground ball to Wong. But I've been also thinking about, I don't know if pressure is the right word on to describe what Brad Ausmus has to do here, because this may never happen again where number 5 comes back to St. Louis, and we all know what it means as Mike Schilt will make a double switch. But
Sunday night, does he do a thing if he wants to take him out of the game where, like they did with Holiday a few years ago, have him go to first base by himself and be acknowledged and then come out, or some way to give him one final send-off, because barring postseason play, this is it.
Albert may not have been happy, but it was one more chance for the fans here to give him a round of applause and make him the center of attention. So I think it worked.
Agreed. The Cardinals are Budweiser player of the game.
Well, he's been sharp really the whole game. He was getting the inside corner, and this double play to me was a key play for him. The 3-6-1 double play, and he settled down after that. Yachty helped him out as well with a strike him out, throw him out, and Wacha found his groove after the second inning. Only one walk, 4 strikeouts. Quality start for Michael Wacha. He needed it. The Cardinals needed it.
And here's Mike Trout. Wonder if Albert went over to Brad Ausmus after the strike him out, throw him out. There's the double switch, Fowler and right. He just said, "Hey man, not smart. Don't do that with Yachty." No sir.
I wonder.
Brad Thompson does a Albert Pujols impersonation that is spot on. Albert would do that with Tony. I told you, Tony. Now, hey, Tony, get out of here. These two love each other. 2-1 pitch to Mike Trout.
Get out of here with respect and keep hitting, keep hitting 330.
Right. Keep doing your thing. And a walk to Trout. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. And by Toyota. Let's go places. Good work by Miller out of the pen as he struck out 2, had a scoreless inning, and a 1-out walk now to Mike Trout.
I don't want to really be an alarmist, but I saw enough out of Carlos there to think, well, I might want to think about who I might want to get up in the bullpen, just because his command was so off. Sometimes you have those days. Now maybe he can get it back quickly, and maybe not.
It was the 67th walk for Mike Trout, and that's most in baseball. He stands at first.
I'd get somebody up right now, and I don't mean to be disrespectful for Carlos. I love Carlos. Carlos is one of my favorite players in the big leagues. He's fun. He's interesting. Don't know what color hair he's going to have. And yet he just seems like maybe the feel isn't there.
So Upton back away, and maybe Yachty's seeing the same thing. By the way, Upton dealing with a turf toe.
There's a time where you can just tell when a pitcher has no idea where the ball's going, and I thought I saw that with Trout. And I think it was beyond just the fact that he's pitching to Mike Trout. He just doesn't seem right to me. I mean, not even close. And I don't know if Yachty can do a quick fix here. I don't think it's an attitude thing. It's hey, I'm throwing the ball and I don't know where it's going. I mean, I've had that, Dan. It's awful. It's painful. I don't mean painful physically, painful mentally, because you're trying to kind of get in a groove and just you're out of whack.
Yeah, and you picked up on that right away. That's 6 straight balls to start the appearance.
I would definitely have somebody up right now.
And after 6 straight balls swinging away, and a souvenir. Upton tonight, a double off the wall RBI, also single to left center and struck out. Fouled back. Even that didn't have the sharp break.
It's not even, it's not even good within the strike zone. He got away with that one. And again, Carlos is dynamic enough he can overcome what I'm talking about, but he can also unravel pretty quickly.
And a strikeout. Throws him. And out number 2. One may have backed up a little bit on him.
It's a slider that doesn't really slide. It just stays on the inside corner. And Carlos will take it. And so will we. Maybe that bit of fortune there will get him out of his funk.
Nobody throwing in the Angels bullpen, so we'll see a second inning, it looks like, from Bard. Here's Cole Calhoun. And that's outside for ball 1. Calhoun tonight. Grounded out to Colton Wong. Grounded into a 3-6-1 double play and also flied out to left. Justin Bour is on deck. Arizona State product Justin Bour is on deck, and along with Cole Calhoun. Barry Bonds played at Arizona State. I was on Brad Thompson's radio show, by the way, today.
Were you? Well, wait a minute. I was listening to it.
And I said that, and I don't know if you agree, but my time of watching, Pujols is the best right-handed hitter I've ever seen. Bonds would be probably overall the best hitter, and then certainly the best left-handed hitter. You agree?
I can't disagree with that at all.
Here's a 2-1. Out of play.
And you're talking as a broadcaster or just your whole life?
Broadcaster.
Although you've been broadcasting since you were 2, so it has been your whole life.
That's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
Heard some of those calls I had with Albert. A little higher voice. And hey!
Well, you know, you were 12.
Right. Get my feet wet, you know. The 2-2 pitch to Cole Calhoun.
I did see Willie Mays play.
That's a pretty good one.
I did see Clemente play once as a fan, young fan. Mays was not at his greatest, but you could put Albert's numbers up there with Willie Mays, and that's saying something.
Amazing. Here's a 2-2 pitch. You got to wonder about Mike Trout, where he ends up on that list, and you got to wonder about guys playing more than Albert Pujols has played. He's in what, 19 seasons now in the big leagues. I may be young, but you were telling me some great stories about watching Babe Ruth.
Yeah, he was good.
Really a good talent that as a kid you got to watch him. There's your strikeout for Martinez.
Garrick was pretty good too.
Today. And delivered, and that's StubHub. Here's Dexter Fowler, part of the double switch in the top half of this inning. And he takes a ball from Luke Bard. Bard walked 2, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs in the bottom of the 7th. For those of you just joining us, Albert Pujols out of the game. He started, batted 5th, played first base. Long ovations before each plate appearance. Went 1 for 2 tonight with an infield hit. We'll be talking a lot about Albert later tonight, post-game show. More to go here in this ball game. You got tomorrow and then Sunday night.
And the real story of the game, even with the drama with Albert and Yadier Molina and the celebration there, the story of the game has been Michael Wacha and Marcell Ozuna.
Yes.
And what they've done in terms of their contribution. Wacha with 6 solid innings, and there's more to go. There's 3 more outs to get, but Ozuna driving in runs in 3 straight at-bats. Talked about the Cardinals needing to get somebody going and everybody else following, and maybe that somebody's Ozuna.
Here's Carpenter and a 1-0. Remember, the Cardinals were 3 for their last 29, Ricky, coming in to play tonight with runners in scoring position, and this evening 4 for 11. Matt Carpenter has struck out, scored 2 runs, walked twice, flied to center.
If you're good in RISP, it's hard to lose. Unless the other team's better.
They're having one of those nights too. You never know. Also, I think overlooked in the game, Andrew Miller coming in. Tight spot last night, gave up a 2-run homer. Comes in a 2-1 game with 1 out, 2 on, and back-to-back strikeouts, which included Ohtani.
We said at the time that could be a key moment in the game, especially facing Ohtani. The power potential. That inning could have unraveled too, but he threw him very good sliders.
And Carpenter pops it up into shallow left. Upton.
You know, Dan, I honestly believe this. I honestly believe that baseball is theater, and sometimes the show is just a little better than other nights. And I think we had some really good actors in this particular theater performance, and it's just been a fun night for me.
For many involved, waiting for this, the build-up, the anticipation. Here's Paul DeYoung at the plate, grounded to third, popped out into foul territory, grounded into a fielder's choice, walked, scored a run, and a stolen base, number 6. Here's a 1-1. Up and in. Man, so many moments seeing Albert back in person. It's one thing to watch him on TV, but just thinking about some of the great games that he's had wearing that Cardinal uniform. I don't know if you've gotten that too, but fun seeing him back. That'll be a picture that remains for so many forever. Yadi and Albert embracing his first game back, first plate appearance, the emotions of that. How much do you think Yadi talked to Michael Wacha about how they wanted to approach that?
I'm sure he told him what he was planning on doing. You know, Yadi was asked about it, if he would say, and he said, well, you know, I'm not really sure. We'll see how it goes. But I think he was sure what he would do. And, you know, if the fans, honestly, I think if the fans would have gone for another 5 minutes, and Albert would have let him. He would have let him. And so maybe I would guess he told Michael Wacha, "Hey, I'm gonna go with that moment," and I'm sure Michael had no problem with that. That's my guess.
This is Brian Goodwin at the plate, and there's pitch to the backstop.
But you can't fully script it. I mean, you may have your idea in your head, but you know, it just as every baseball game takes a twist and a turn you're not sure of. I think even that moment there was an idea of what he would do, but not maybe sure of exactly how it would play out.
The 2-2 is tapped foul. Martinez, 22 pitches. Came in with 1 out, nobody on in the 8th inning. They're down to 1 bench player, Justin Bohr. They've used Garneau, Tovar, Ohtani, and Goodwin, and Goodwin pinch hitting for Tovar in this spot. It's been Wacha for 6, Gallegos for a third of an inning, Andrew Miller for an inning, and now Martinez, as that pitch taken just a bit low.
And the pitcher's spot is 4th in this inning, so we'll see Bohr there.
Little squibber hit left side, and Carpenter no chance. Infield hit for Goodwin. It's the second infield hit for the Angels tonight. The speedy Goodwin, and the other, Albert Pujols. Here's David Fletcher. Third baseman. It's lined out to second, grounded into a fielder's choice, flied out to right. He was caught stealing by Molina, part of an inning-ending double play back in the 4th. Strike him out, throw him out. It'll be emotional again tomorrow with the fans that aren't here tonight. Those that come to the ballpark will be standing up, cheering loudly for Albert Pujols. And then Sunday night, I'm really interested to see how that unfolds.
And our fans that watch every game, I mean, we'll apologize in advance because the experience at this ballpark tomorrow will be unique to 48,000 different people, as you mentioned. And if you're watching every game, you saw it tonight, tomorrow you say, hey, let's stop talking about Pujols for goodness sakes. Well, tomorrow's crowd, tomorrow's audience, even the TV audience, several that don't watch every game, shame on them. Good point. They're going to want to hear the Pujols story as well and feel it.
There's a ground ball. 4-6. 3. No, they can't get the double play with Fletcher hustling down the line.
Wong's as quick as you can be to get that ball to DeYoung, and he's quick on the turn, but the play at first, he is indeed safe.
Rengifo, the shortstop, began there, moved to second base. And lines it to Goldschmidt. Steps on the bag. Throw to second. And they ended with a double play. What a play by the current first baseman here in St. Louis. Paul Goldschmidt. Wow. And the Cardinals win it by the final of 5-1.
What an ending. Defense matters. Goldschmidt. Look at that play on the backhand. Smart enough to get the bag first. Strong throw to second. And what a terrific way to end a wonderful night at the ballpark. A lot of emotion, a lot of nostalgia, and a lot of Michael Wacha and Marcell Ozuna.
Cardinals take game 1 and spoil the initial game of 3. And Pujols return to St. Louis. Much more to come. We'll break it all down. The post-game show comes your way next. 5-1 the final.